Hello and welcome to Won't Be Forgetting That, a podcast talking about all of the most awkward and embarrassing things that have happened to people whilst working in the arts and entertainment industry. I'm your podcast host, Seb Muirhead, and today we have a guest. They are a photographer, an actor, a director, Sarah Clarke.
Hey, Seb.
Thank you so much for coming on first off, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Now, a little peek behind the curtain for all you beautiful perverts listening. We have just come from a rather drizzly photo shoot, so if we sound a bit damp, my apologies. I've also been starting off this podcast recently with compliments because I've kind of noticed that I bring on people I really admire their work and then exclusively get them to talk about the worst points in their career. So I hope it doesn't make you too uncomfortable for me to give you some compliments to start off with.
I love compliments.
Oh, fuck yeah. So not only are you a fantastic actor, but you're an outstanding photographer as well. So I would suggest anyone listening as well, is there anywhere particularly that people can look at your portfolio or your previous work?
Yeah, so I'm found on Instagram at Sarah Clarke Photo. That's S-A-R-E, Clarke with an E.
How fun.
And likewise, sarahclarkephotography.com is sort of the meat and potatoes of the portfolio, as I like to say.
Sick. So I would definitely recommend, obviously finish this episode. Or, you can do both at the same time, but go and check that out. Because like some beautiful photography, and you've even taken some of my headshots in the past as well.
Yes, I have. Thank you for saying that.
No, it's quite all right. Like genuinely, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. But that also kind of leads nicely into a little awkward moment that we had together. I don't know if that was one of your stories, but I would love to start off by saying
do.
It was just such a silly mistake, and I think it was one of those things where it was neither of our fault, but both of our fault at the same time as well. I'd booked in with you, for a photography session, for a headshot session, because again, absolutely fantastic photography skills, and for whatever reason I'd said one day and then I hadn't double checked and we'd had a different date, and
I think that was my fault.
Yeah, well,
I think it was. I think I turned up without checking.
Yeah.
It was a great moment for me to actually go back to my systems, though, and go, okay, communication, sir, well, that's important.
I had written originally the date that I thought it was going to be on, and then you'd send all these follow-up emails, very professional, with the day beforehand, I think it was, and I just hadn't checked anything, and I was just like, I don't need to check anything, and then poor you turned up to Federation Square with not me to be seen. How long were you waiting for? I don't even know if I asked you.
I don't think it was very long.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember. This is like pre-COVID now. This would
have been 2018 maybe?
It feels like a distant memory.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, long enough ago that it doesn't feel too bad it happened, but I still feel bad about it.
I also feel bad about it. But thank you in a way, because, we go through the difficult things and then we come out the other side with either an anxiety complex or better systems in place.
But sometimes both.
Yeah.
I think as a performer, definitely both a lot of the time as well. Yeah. But at least it wasn't like, I don't know, not turning up to... Not saying that I'm not important, obviously, but like not turning up to an important thing or something like that. Like it was very much...
At least it was the opposite problem.
Yeah, right? So at least I wasn't standing there a day earlier. And I would have been absolutely fine with it. Like, it's totally my fault too. But like, if I was a really upset client being like, no, you'll never work in this town again. So that sucks from both of our perspectives. I just felt so bad as well. I was like, oh God, you turned up when I wasn't there.
But then we got together and we did the shoot and it was great.
It looks fucking awesome as well. They're genuinely some of my favourite headshots. I can't use them anymore because I'm a little bit more grey than I was back then. Maybe I'll send them through to you and you can Photoshop.
You and me both.
I know, right? It's just the past few years, I don't know if anyone's heard. Bit rough for everyone, bit rough for the performance industry. And I wish I could blame COVID for my grey hairs. I was going grey before that as well, but every year it just keeps coming through. It's in my beard now, and it's on my chin and just spreading out across my face. So I have to keep updating my stupid headshots, so I don't look the same every year anymore. So it'll be just nice. I don't know. AI can update it for me maybe in the future.
Oh, hey, true.
I'll take all of our jobs at some point anyway, but.
Just dapple the beard with grey, thanks.
Yeah, just like a little Microsoft spray paint in there, that'd be great. Yeah, right? Every single audition now, or TV commercial auditions I should say, just wants a selfie. So it's like, why have I got all these beautiful professional headshots And I'm just sending in this horrible selfie of me like tired, pretending to be like enjoying myself whilst auditioning for, I don't know, a school supply company or something like that.
Yeah, I guess the headshot gets you in the door, but then they need to make sure you're a real person, or
well, probably because there are people who have their headshots from 2018 sending it through, being like, I'm not grey, what are you talking about? Just dye my hair when I turn up on set. You can do that, right? But talking of TV commercials, and especially TV commercial auditions, this is always one of my favourite things to ask performers. They're usually where I find the most cooked stuff comes from, and my most embarrassing stuff. And it's just like, you do so many of them as an actor. All you do is TV commercial auditions, and then once every 4 months you get a TV show or a film audition, and then you're back to doing, I don't know, pretending to drive a car in a room by yourself.
Yes.
And then you're like, wait, what side is the handbrake on again? And you just get so lost in it.
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of positive experiences, or hopefully, and hopefully sounds awful, potentially any embarrassing experiences with the old TV commercial game?
Yeah, I've had several embarrassing experiences.
Perfect. I'm sorry to hear that, but great for the show.
I mean, it's all in good fun, but you do get put in some situations that are a bit, you wouldn't really do them otherwise.
No, right? And you're in there, and I mean, you used to be in the room a lot more, and nowadays you're just standing by yourself in a room, like your own room, and they ask you to dress in 4 different costumes, and you're like, why would I have a nurse's outfit? I'm not a nurse.
I embarrassingly bought a tradies outfit from Savers the other day for, I bought a high-vis shirt and some men's work shorts to audition as an electrician, and I used like my partner's tools, and it was so ridiculous. And, at the time I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then I looked back on it, after the time had passed when the callbacks would have been, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really cringy.
Maybe I didn't get this one. Not only did you not get the job, you lost money by buying an outfit for it.
I did.
But so much of the time they are like, can you dress like a tradie? Can you dress like this? And I'm like, I'm not a tradie.
Yeah.
I have a high-vis vest, which I wear now, which I'm very interested. I might ask you after the podcast if it was for the same audition as well, because I had one in the past couple of weeks where I had to dress up as a tradie too.
May have been.
But we'll talk about it off the podcast, which I hate when people say that, but I don't want to throw myself or yourself under the bus at all as well. But it's a lot of the time it is asking you to dress up like these things. I had one, I think I've definitely spoken about this on the podcast before, but they're like, you've fallen out of the washing machine in your underwear, and you're like, you've got all these clothes and you're taking these clothes off you, and like you're covered in clothes. And then I have definitely mentioned this part before, but like, can you send in a picture of you in your underwear as well? I know, right? And I'm like, I don't think I'd do this if this was in the room. This is a self-tape.
No.
So not only did I have to do all of that, but they're like, you're coming out the washing machine, so you're wet. So I had to have a shower in my underwear. So I was wet for the taping of this. Oh God, this is bringing back memories. So I was like covered in towels, soaking wet, but then obviously you don't like your first 20 takes. So I started drying off again, just because I was sweating and I was really warm. So I had to go back in the shower and shower again in my underwear and come back out again. And I had to shower again to take a photo in my underwear, so I was wet for the photo. Just a real time. So I would love to move on from my embarrassing experiences. Did you have any from TV commercial auditions? Sorry.
Yeah, so this is similar in a way. My casting network says that I do swimming, and I did swimming in high school.
Yeah.
Not well by any
Casting
stretch.
networks doesn't have to know that.
No. But for some reason I'd included all strokes, and butterfly was one of the strokes that was included. And I had an audition request for a TV commercial that required me to swim, 50 meters of butterfly or something. And so the tape was to record me doing a lap of butterfly.
Like in the pool?
Yes.
Wow.
And then this must have been slightly before COVID, because it wasn't just a self-tape, it was a tape and then an in-the-room audition, but it was not a callback.
Oh, wow. So you had to record outside of it.
Yes.
And I've never done that before. That is so interesting.
So the tape was due, say the Friday, and then the audition was on the Monday or something like that. And then I had to go there and be my swimsuit and everything. And it was mortifying, because I did multiple takes of this butterfly lap. I only finished one take where I finished the lap.
Yeah, unsurprisingly. It's a fucking hard lap.
In a 25-meter pool too, I might add. And then, you know, in the audition room way back when, you know, there's other people around, I saw the person who was eventually cast in the room who's a friend.
Oh, that's good.
And so I was like, okay, cool. This is great. I'm happy for you. My confidence is plummeting, but that's all right. And then, you know, you go in and being in the swimsuits.
So you had to wear a swimsuit in, and they asked you to be in the swimsuit for the audition?
They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so confronting.
Oh, it was horrific. Yeah.
I get it. They need to, I don't know, like if they see you swimming, do you need to be in a swimsuit for, I mean, obviously you do. It's such a weird, it's like this kind of stuff you're like, what am I turning up for?
Yeah.
I always make like the comparison to like if you're an accountant. I don't know why I always use accountant, but it always seems like the most stock standard job, right? You go in and you're like, yes, I just had to sit in the office in my swimwear today. And you're like, what? Or go for a job interview in your swimwear and you're like, this is bringing on a lot of insecurities in me.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, isn't it? And you know, that's possibly the only time I've had to dress in something that made me feel uncomfortable in a sort of a TV commercial setting. But yeah, it was, and I could have said no, I could have said
I know, but in hindsight, God, you always want the job as well, don't you?
You do.
That one TV commercial can get you through a lot of months as well.
Yes.
And if it rolls over, God, you're fucking laughing.
Yes.
But and then you turn up and then afterwards you're like, it wasn't skeezy, but I still feel weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel like I'm definitely not going to be cast in this. You know, you have that feeling sometimes. You're like, what? I know it's a no. Why am I still showing up?
I've had a few of them before for like foreign pictures that come over here and they have to audition a certain number of Australians. And I'm like, why am I auditioning for this? You're going to choose somebody which is like has a name that's American. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's great. I'm not complaining about it. But then like looking at the IMDb cast list when it's released and I'm like, oh, that guy that was on Parks and Rec, he's probably going to get the job over me, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
He did. This is a very specific example I'm using just now. I'm not going to name the film, but I was like, oh, okay, I can understand why I didn't get cast in that. But then also in TV commercials, you're like, I don't think you want me for this. Like, I'm so grateful to get auditions, but please make me stop pretending to have children and talk to them about Pokemon. I don't think I'm the right fit for this one.
Totally.
Although I would love that job, obviously.
Yes.
I'm not saying Nintendo of Australia, Pokemon of Australia, please cast me as Pokemon Dad. But again, I don't think I actually saw the commercial. I wasn't right for it.
Damn.
But it could always have been worse as well in your case, I suppose. Friend of the show and friend of ours as well, Jessica Stanley. She did a dance for her mother in her bikini, so at least you were in the room doing it and not doing it to a family member.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
It could always be worse,
yeah.
Right? But again, it could always be better. Clothed editions usually make me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. I guess if I had have gotten that role, then I would have been in my swimsuit for the world to see or for Australia to see, which, you know, although you're getting a paycheck, that's still pretty confronting.
It is, right? And especially when people like, because I don't know about yourself, but I've done plays which I've been naked in, and then your friends come along and see you, and I'm like, cool, obviously I don't mind, but it's just a bit more of an intimate setting than a lot of people see their other friends in.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're like, cool, this is a different dynamic to our relationship, I suppose, now. So especially when you're on TV and the whole world can see in you. Yeah. Swimsuit, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, again, thank you for the money, but it's still a little confronting.
Yeah.
But yes, moving on from our TV commercial editions, did you come in with a few prepared stories?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah, sick. I don't know how many of the episodes you've listened to, but recently I've been asking people like if they can leave their most salacious stories till the end, keep all these beautiful perverts listening. If you have any groupings of stories as well, I always quite like putting the certain ones together. The audition ones always go together quite nicely.
Yeah.
The nudity ones, because every performer's always naked because they always a bunch of weirdos. So if you have any groupings of stories as well, that'd be awesome. Or is there any particular way that you want to tell them?
That's a really good question. I think I have got a grouping that I can talk about later.
Oh, yeah.
So I might start... I guess this sort of initial grouping is around my experience on student film sets.
Oh, good stuff.
So we're going back a few years now, but I've got a few prickly stories and experiences from that time.
Now, Sarah, would you like to explain to the audience maybe why a student film set might differ from your Hollywood film set?
I've never been on a Hollywood film set, Seb.
I'm so sorry. From your maybe your Australian independent feature, your Australian TV show film set.
Well, a student film set, they're very varied. There's all different sorts.
Yep.
But generally speaking, you're working with people who are learning.
Yeah.
Who may not have the experience or the on-set etiquette that you would expect from a larger production.
And that's not through their negligence. That's just purely because they have not learnt it yet as well. But still sometimes you're like, oh, stuff can be done a little different here.
Yes, and you've also got people in some cases that are in crew positions that they'd rather not be in.
All the time. They're always just like, and you're like, you have a little chat with everyone, like you're being nice, and you're like, oh, you do production design? Like, no, I'm a director. I just have to do production design for my course. And you're like, oh, okay. I'm sorry for asking.
Yeah.
And they just resent it sometimes as well, which I get. Yeah. Like if you're wanting to be a director, I get not wanting to do other crew positions, but it's so important to learn all the other crew positions as well, right?
Completely. Yes. Yeah. I actually think it's a really good format and skill, and feel like a lot of actors could benefit from learning different crew roles on sets, but also in theatre and stuff as well. So I like as a framework.
Yes.
But in practice, on set, sometimes...
it doesn't always work so well, does it?
No. And then you also don't have things like, I don't know now, it's been several years since I've done a student film, but I don't know if there's intimacy coordinators and things like that these days, but certainly not safety people.
Yes. Well, I mean, intimacy coordination's a massive safety thing, which a lot of the time isn't considered safety, I think, but it really is. It's like emotional safety more than anything else, which is nice. That's coming to the forefront a bit more. And again, for anyone that doesn't know what intimacy coordinators are, they're basically just people, they're like a fight choreographer, but for all the parts that aren't fight, like that involve any intimacy, and that can be from holding hands to like sharing a kiss to your more involved scenes. And they are so fucking welcome, but there's such a weird pushback against them because they're like, oh, I don't get why you need this. And you're like, because I'm a fucking human, man, and everyone comes from a different background and everybody has different experiences, so you're like, just stop pushing back against it, please. Sorry, I come into this podcast and just complain about things now. I've done it for a year, so it's just me complaining about things now. But I know a lot of student short films are getting better with that stuff, but I know certainly from my past experience as well that a lot of the older ones didn't even know what that was. Yeah. This
first story that I have to tell you will probably cringe as a stunt person because...
That's okay. I had lots of experience before being a graded stunt performer where I now, in hindsight, cringe about.
So it was my first shoot in Melbourne. You know, I've like moved to the city from another city, small city, Brisbane. But I moved here and I, had stars in my eyes and I thought everything was going to be amazing. And anyway, so I'm auditioning for short films, which is what I was doing in Queensland as well. And getting a bit of experience that way, which I don't regret whatsoever.
No, I think it's a great way of getting experience, especially for like starting out. Great way to meet people that are up and coming. And if you can get a couple of bucks for it, that really helps. But you get a lot of showreel footage that you can use further down the line as well. Hopefully you can get showreel footage. Sorry, I should preface that with hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. The film in question I did have in my showreel for a time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, is that nice? Sorry, I don't know if I've...
No.
It was good. Okay, good.
The footage was, I got it.
Yeah,
I got the footage. That's
half the fucking battle right there,
Yeah. And so we're on set. We're filming in a closed supermarket overnight.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Because the director happens to work there, and so we've got the permissions to use it.
Nice. Are we talking, you don't have to name names, obviously. Are we talking about a Woolies or a Coles or maybe a bit more of an independent supermarket?
An independent supermarket.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we're there, we're rolling through some scenes. I can't remember how many nights we were there for, whether it was just one or if it was multiple. But then there's a moment in the script where my character slips on some urine, which is on the supermarket aisle,
of course,
floor.
Yeah.
Because there's a few funny characters
Yep.
in the store. And so I'm going, okay, I have a background in movement. I can do this. Don't worry, everyone. I'll just do it. I can do it. Yeah. Don't worry. I very much made it clear that I was happy to do this, to, faux slip without ever having done anything of the sort.
This is the classic actor. This is the actor that can turn up and be like, I can ride a horse.
Yeah.
I can sword fight.
Yeah.
Oh, I can dirt bike ride. Yes.
Yeah.
And we've all been there, myself included. You're like, yeah, just do it on the day. It's fine. I'm an actor. I can act like I know what I'm doing. Can I ask, was the floor concrete as well, or very hard?
Yes. It was polished concrete.
Yep, wonderful. So the worst thing to land on, except from maybe broken glass, or even gravel's nice because it gives way a little bit.
True.
But polished concrete sucks, and that's from experience. And maybe from experience from yourself as well, by the way it's sounding.
Yes, I'm telling the story in a leading way. I think you can fill in the blanks. But yeah, so I performed this stunt in heavy quotations and just ate shit basically and wound up on the floor, hurt my butt, hurt my head. And
did you bop the head on the floor?
I think I bopped the head on the floor. I think I ended up getting a bag of peas or something to put on my head.
Well, at least they were close by.
They were.
That's true.
We were in the cold aisle, actually. They were very close by. But yeah, so that was embarrassing for me, more than the pain of the fall.
Oh my God, it's the instant, like, when people are asking if you're okay and you're trying not to act like you're too hurt as well. Did you do it once and have to do it again, or
we couldn't do it
once?
again?
Yeah.
It was one take.
Was it a good take?
It was used, so...
Okay. That out of necessity or out of want?
I think, if I recall from watching the film, I very much fall out of shot quite quickly. So
they could have just put, like, mats down and, like, you didn't even have to fall on the ground.
Yeah, they could. Actually, that's true. They could have,
Again, student films, you really have to look at for yourself. And it's not out of malice, it's just out of ignorance, unfortunately, for a lot of them. But that can still be painful.
Yeah. I think... too, if from an ignorance perspective for me, now I would probably go into something like that with a bit more the ability to maybe ask for what I need rather than wanting to be the yes person to please everybody else.
You do that so much when you're first starting out. You never want to, like, quote unquote kick up a stink or be that problematic prima donna or diva that actors are always branded with, and you're like, no, I'd rather not break my butt and skull on this concrete floor, if that's okay. Yeah, especially for our student short film, which, look, I'm sure it turned out well, but probably not going to get you any accolades or be worth breaking things for. No,
probably not. Not on a no.
How long after the fall were you, like, out of it for? Like, and by out of it I mean, like, having to sit down and nurse your head and butt and...
Oh, I don't think it was too long.
That's good, at least then.
Yeah. It might have been the last take, even, of the day.
Regardless.
My memory's a bit murky after that, though. So maybe I was out for longer than I remember, but it could just be that it was going on about 10 years ago that this happened. So
10 years ago and a cheeky little concussion don't help.
No.
That sucks. And you're always wanting to, like, be like, I can do this. And I would have definitely done the same as well back in the day. But now being a qualified stunt performer, which doesn't mean I know anything as well, obviously, but you're like, mats, pads, get someone else to do it. Like, there's so many different ways around this, especially if they're not showing you falling on the floor as well. Oh dear.
Yeah,
that sucks. That really sucks.
I know. I'll see if I can
feel so bad for you.
Find the footage and
if you have the footage
later.
I would love to see it, and if we're allowed to share it with the world as well. But I don't want to put you in any, like, positions where you feel like you have to, but I would love to see it.
We'll circle back to that.
We will. Oh, that sucks though. Injuries on set as well. I don't know about yourself. I'm constantly trying to play off, like, it didn't hurt too much, that's not too bad. I filmed a TV show last year, and it went on a little bit of a hiatus. Like, it was only 2 weeks because it was such a long-running TV show. People needed holidays, essentially. So there was a 2-week holidays. And 1 week before they had their hiatus, I broke my foot. And I was like, I don't want to tell them I've broken my foot. So I broke my foot. I wasn't filming that 1 week. Then it was a 2 weeks off. And then back after that, so 3 weeks after I'd broken my foot, they're like, hey, can we get you for a couple of days? And I was like, yeah. And it was fine. I was wearing big combat boots in the show and it wasn't a problem. But then in the dressing trailer afterwards, the costume trailer, I fell over and stubbed my foot on, it wasn't even anything like, I think it was on another shoe, but it was so fucking painful. And I was just like, the costumer was like, are you okay? And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. It sucked.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you tell them?
No, I didn't tell anyone. One of the I don't even know if he was an assistant coordinator. Maybe he was just another performer on there. He knew that I'd broken my foot a few weeks back, but he was like, if you say you can do it, you can do it. Like, I don't want to take work away from you. So I was just like, it's fine. My character's pretty stationary for these scenes. I just have to fall over, so if anything, my feet are coming off the ground.
True, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, you're constantly trying to play. And I mean, like, as an actor or like a jobbing actor, you can't say no to roles.
No, it's that tricky thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because you just have to be like, I'm fine. Yeah,
I'm available. Yeah, I can. Yeah. I can do it.
You never want to kick up a stink as well, right?
Yeah.
Even if you do hurt yourself on set, but that sucks. Is that your only on-set injury as well? Or have we got any other on because you do a fair bit of theatre too, or even behind the camera?
I do. It's not so much an injury. I was actually reflecting before we hit record today that most of my stories are about falling over.
Nice.
This other story is a theatre story, and it was for an outdoor Shakespeare experience.
Oh, fun.
And let me try and paint you a picture of the move I was trying to execute. So picture a superhero cartoon character that hitches the elbows up into the air, has one foot on the ground, hitches the knee up into the air, and then zooms out of the frame.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I was trying to achieve that motion.
Yep.
And the surface I was on was kind of gravelly, and I managed to hitch the elbows up. I hitched the leg up, and then I just plummeted to the ground.
The other foot just gave way.
I'm just not sure exactly what happened, but it was like falling in slow motion.
That's so funny when it happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I became the laughing stock of the cast. It was actually quite, in a nice way.
Yep.
It was in good fun. But I just wasn't really able to break my fall or get my bent leg up, and I just straight down.
That sucks. I always ask this as well in theatre, especially. I was like, was the character like inclined to do that in the performance, or were you playing like a very straight-laced character where like that was not obviously part of the script? No,
I think that was we were talking about, my character would exit like that. My character played multiple characters in this particular production, and one of them had a lot of physical comedy.
Okay, so at least people watching are like, oh no, that's funny. Even if she is bleeding on the ground.
I should say, this did happen in rehearsals.
Oh, in rehearsal.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's totally fine. Oh, okay. So you can take the time to be like, wow, that sucks, and ow, and what just happened?
Yeah. There was a whole bunch of us, probably 70% of the cast had the same entrance.
Yeah,
and we
right.
were all waiting to come on. Oh, no. And it just happened in that moment while we were just, chit-chatting in the wings. And so there were lots of witnesses.
That's tough as well.
It didn't hurt very much, though, I will say.
That's good.
It was more just funny.
Yeah. And there's that shock as well. And you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It's also upsetting that you don't record that stuff as well.
I know.
Because you're like, I would love to have seen that back. But it's also a nice cast bonding experience.
Yes.
Everyone can be like, well, first of all, whenever I see that happen, I'm like, I'm so happy that wasn't me. And then secondly, I'm like, that's fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody recently who's working with a few of the same people at the moment, and they brought it up. So it's doing the rounds.
Yeah, nice. Oh, it's nice to be remembered as
I
well.
know.
It's synonymous with falling over. Yeah. But in a funny way, right?
In a funny way.
Yeah. Does anyone else ever try to recreate that then?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge, but
You've trademarked that move.
Maybe behind my back. Who knows?
Oh, how dare they? Cancel them if you find out who that is. You can come back on this show and name and shame them.
Look out.
Yeah. It's that thing as well, like what I mentioned before, like gravel is it's stable footing until it's not.
Yeah.
Because, like, a lot of the time, that's where a lot of falls will happen, because you're like, no, it's a solid ground, but then it's all those little stones, and they'll get you as well. They'll stick in your elbow, and they'll cut you, and you're like, oh, you fucker.
Yeah.
You gave me a false idea of how stable you were. So I can definitely understand how that would have happened on gravel, too. But, I mean, that one doesn't suck as much as it is funny. It's never fun to fall over in front of your peers, but as long as you can share the laugh rather than being laughed at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So we've moved from horrible fall to fun fall?
Yeah, I guess so.
Any other fall stories?
I don't know. I don't think so. Even though I've just said that I had lots of fall stories.
Yeah. But sometimes it's just tripping over and you're like,
Yeah.
well, no one else saw that, so I can get away with that maybe.
Totally. Those are the two most memorable.
Most memorable falls?
Yeah.
Do we have any other stories from student short films in that case then?
I do.
Oh dear.
And
oh dear.
I will preface this one privately by saying
Yes.
that I'm not sure when it comes out if I want to share this one.
Oh, okay.
Because I just don't know if I can say it in a way that's not awful.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So this may or may not be left in
Yeah.
the podcast. So if you're here now, you privileged people, then you get to hear this story, but otherwise there'll be a weird time cut in this.
I do have another one. So this is a student short film story. Again, very fresh in Melbourne.
Yep.
Don't have a car at this stage.
Yeah, right.
Whilst I can drive, I didn't move here with a car, and so I was very much beholden to other people driving
course,
me
yeah.
around or public transport. Anyway, I'm shooting. This is one where I never saw the footage.
Oh.
So it's one of those.
So we've all been there.
Yeah.
For better or worse sometimes as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so, as is the case a lot with student films, you have loads of young people on the crew.
Yep.
The crew. And on this crew, there was also like a 40-year-old guy on the crew.
Okay.
Which was, fine. I didn't think anything of it at the time. And then suddenly we're having to drive from one location to another.
Okay.
And there's a few of us that have gotten into this older crew member's car.
Yep.
And he's can't start the car without breathing into his breath test.
Yeah, breathalyzer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen that before.
I didn't know that was a thing in Australia. I've seen that in the movies in America
Yes.
before. I never knew that was a thing here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it suddenly dawned on me. We were in like this area near Rye Beach, really isolated.
Yeah,
And I was
right.
like, oh my gosh, this could be dangerous. Do I even have reception? How would I get out of here if I wanted to? And my mind just started racing, even though this guy was perfectly nice.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you put so much trust into these people you've never met before,
Yeah.
just with the assumption that you're like, oh no, these are all like perfectly good human beings. I'm not saying that this person wasn't, obviously, but then you're like, oh no, wait, sorry, anyone can work in film.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And it just gave me this pause where I go, okay, cool. Is this safe? It very may well be safe. That's fine. But it also may not be. I actually don't. The only person I've met here before is the director.
Yeah.
They're not traveling in the car right now. It's
Was
like,
it just you two in the car then?
there might have been another person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of terrifying as well, right? But again, it's the assumption more so than maybe what it is, but you kind of always have to
course.
assume that as well. Yeah.
And like no judgment on people that need to use those devices
Yeah.
to start their car. But I think me in that phase, being very young and quite naive, it was just one of those experiences that you realize how little control you have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also that kind of thing as well where it's like student short films as well. They kind of don't really think about, because they're all friends or they've all worked together. And then sometimes they're like, yeah, just come to my house to audition. And you're like, I don't know who you are. Like, I'm not going to, I'm going to set a precedent for saying no to this just purely because I don't want to turn up to this. But then it encourages you to have other people to turn up to it as well, which I think across the board is unsafe. Like, you shouldn't be going to people's private residences that you've never met before to do an audition.
No.
So yeah, hold it in like a safe space, a public space, other people are around and stuff like that. But then it is when you get on the film set, you're like, oh, we're just filming in like your parents' farm in the middle of nowhere and I've never met any of you before. And if you don't have a car and you're a younger woman as well, like, God, that stuff's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And even if the film turns out to be shit as well, you're like, oh, and all of that was for nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hello. Now, not to interrupt all of these wonderfully awkward stories, but Coffee on Cue is back at it again. Introducing the Coffee on Cue Filter Coffee Brewing Pack, your ticket to enjoying these embarrassing moments with a perfect cup of coffee. This incredible kit includes a 2-cup V60 pour-over filter brewer, matching filter papers, and 250 grams of their Ethiopian Guji single origin coffee, specially roasted for filter brewing. This is the gift for the coffee drinker in your life, or for an office Kris Kringle, or anyone that says, oh, I don't really want a present this year. And the best part? Well, we've got an exclusive offer just for you beautiful perverts. Head over to www.coffeeonq.com.au, and that's QCUE, right now, and use the code WBFT15. That's WBFT15 at checkout, and you'll score a fantastic 15% off your purchase. So, whether you're brewing up awkward stories or sharing a laugh over a cup of delicious filter coffee, the Coffee on Cue Filter Coffee Brewing Pack is here to make every moment extra special. And that will happen with your WBFT15 15% discount. So don't miss out on this incredible deal and the opportunity to give the perfect gift this holiday season. Visit www.coffeeonq.com.au and use WB15 for your 15% discount and start embracing the awkward, one cup of coffee at a time.
It's tricky. You bring up a good point about working in people's homes, because I did a feature later, sort of I guess my first paid gig. I call it my first professional sort of acting job, but I'm not sure if I would use that language. Oh. Or no, I don't want to belittle the project, but I've learnt a lot since then.
Yeah.
But that was a really interesting project, a really long rehearsal period. I'm talking like probably 8 weeks.
Yeah,
like
right.
Full day rehearsals at least once a week in the director's home.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? 'Cause
yeah.
I get you're trying to save money, but I also don't know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And turning up to strangers' homes, essentially, and it's fine sometimes if it's like friends of friends and stuff like that, but if you've never met them, be a little bit weird.
I knew some people that were connected to the project that sort of allowed me to trust that everything was above board, and it was, as far as my experience on that set, but it was still a little bit, it was a bit interesting.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that story as well. I did I'll dance around what the theatre show was, but I did this theatre show and we had a massive rehearsal period. I genuinely think it ran for 6 months before this 1 week show. So it was so much work. But then, because obviously we were in professional rehearsal spaces, because it was such a long rehearsal period, I think the money was getting a little bit out of control to keep renting that. Yeah. So we went to the producer's house for some of the rehearsals, and then we were rehearsing some of the intimate scenes in the producer's bed. Yeah, which in hindsight I was like, this is normal, right? They're the director and the producer, they're saying that this is fine to do, but it's just myself and this other performer who we were having intimate scenes together in the bed, and then kind of this is a bit weird with just the director and producer literally sitting at the foot of the beds giving us notes on how to have this, it was a post-sex scene, so we were sitting in the bed in our underwear, and it was just this is weird. Actually, in hindsight, this is weird. No intimacy coordinator again, but that's kind of a thing of the times as well. I don't even think that was an idea at the time, but it's just fucking weird looking back at it. And again, I didn't feel unsafe, but it was weird, especially in hindsight. Weird. Yeah. And speaking for myself there, my other female performer, I don't want to speak for her or how she felt as well, but nothing felt bad, but in hindsight it feels weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I reflect on my experience in the same way. I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
If I was offered the same, I've well and truly cast out of that role in terms of my age range now anyway. But if I was offered that role under those conditions, I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, it's an interesting thing to reflect on and grapple with.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's experience, and it comes a little bit more with age as well, I think. Which is why I think this kind of stuff, like telling these kind of stories, is important for younger performers, because especially when you're wanting to get into the industry, you're so fucking keen. And you're like, yeah, I'll do whatever. And then that is kind of how skeezy people get away with taking advantage of people as well. And I'm not saying from either of our experiences that was what happened, but it is the potential there as well. And there's no other people there to... bear witness or stop it as well, and you feel like you're like, oh, maybe this is normal. Like, is this what everyone does?
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything's moving in a better direction. It's just slowly, and there is still the potential for those weird things to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy, right.
In other news, though,
yes.
on that same shoot, the one that rehearsed in the home,
yes,
the director, is where I met my partner.
Oh, no shit. Oh, that's so good.
So for both of us, that was our first sort of professional gig out of study.
Yeah, nice.
And he was on the sound crew for one day.
Oh, wow.
And...
Geez, you work quick.
Well, no, that's a little longer story.
Oh, okay.
And I was in the cast, and so anyway, we crossed paths. Didn't even remember. I think we were probably both seeing other people at the time, so it was fine. But... Then we reconnected on a 24-hour film. Do you remember those? The 24-hour film shoots?
Oh, like you get... And what is it? Like, it's not the script, but you get like the three things you have to mention, or like a prop that you have to use in it.
Yes.
You write the script, film it, edit it, submit it in 24 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were in the same team on one of those.
Oh, sick.
And we were both like, hey, we've met before. Where have we met before?
Oh my God, that happens so much, right? Yeah.
Speaking of traveling in cars with strangers too, driving between locations, I went in his car, and so we were just chit-chatting, and anyway, and now we've just celebrated our 7-year anniversary.
7 years. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, I mean, congrats as well.
Thank you.
7 years is so long. I mean, like, sorry, it's not so long, but like it's a decent stint.
It is so long. You can say that.
Yeah, no,
that's cool. Welcome here.
All right, good. Because I feel like people celebrate their wedding anniversaries from like the older generations. Have been like, we've been together for 15 years, blah blah blah. People from our generation aren't getting married as often. I've been with my partner for 12 years now, which I'm like, that's so long.
So long.
But they're like, are you married? I'm like, no, I've never been interested in marriage. And I'm like, okay. I was like, but we've been together for 12 years. Like, fuck, what?
Yeah.
So congrats on 7 years.
Thank you.
And congrats on the 24-hour film as well.
Oh, yes.
How did that turn out?
Oh, that was hilarious, actually. That was, it was a fun shoot. It was good people, of whom I knew quite a few. So nice. I felt like, we talk about student crews being friends. It felt like I was, friends with everyone.
Though, isn't it? Like, it's good. I love turning up on set now and seeing people that I've worked with previously.
Yes.
Especially from the acting side of it. You turn up and you're so lonely sometimes, because like if you're a day player or a bit part, which basically just means you're in like one or two scenes or one or two pages, you turn up and the main cast is all like buddy because they've been at it for months, and then all the crew have worked together for years beforehand, and you're just sitting there being like, just try not to get in the way. Hi, can I have a coffee? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So it's lovely turning up now, seeing like costumers or hair and makeup that you've worked with before, even cast and like from the stunt world as well, seeing stunties on there. I love it. It's just so much nicer. You feel so much more at home.
Totally. Part of the family.
Yeah, right. Opposed to just being like this person that's like so quiet and like, I really need to make a good impression.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get anything wrong, and I'm too scared to try anything on camera, so I'm just going to say my one line and fuck off.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you can turn up and feel relaxed.
Yeah, that was very much the case with this, but it was funny. 24-hour film. You think, just roll with the first idea and commit to it.
Yeah.
That is not what we did.
Right.
We, the writers had an idea, wrote the thing. We started recording it.
Wow.
Then, I don't know, want to say 2 a.m. on the, in the evening, changed their minds, rewrote the thing. So then we had to reshoot the whole story.
Yeah.
At the time, I was working at a cafe, and
oh my God, were you working like at the cafe during the shoot as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh fuck that.
I am the stupidest person I know in many ways, because I'm that type of person that just like will always go to work no matter what. And this was no exception. So we were recording from 4 a.m. or something until the cafe opened.
Oh.
And And then I worked that day. So I've been up anyway, it was horrific.
That sucks.
But it was funny. It was funny.
Is that because you were delusional
delirious,
after?
yeah.
Sorry, delirious, not delusional. Or maybe
both.
delusional as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've had like, what, half an hour of sleep, if that, maybe?
If that. Yeah, it was a bit silly. But no, it was good fun. And I don't know if the end result was any good, but we submitted it.
Yeah,
so,
and that's all that counts sometimes
yes.
with those kind of festivals as well, hey?
Yeah.
And they're fun and they're like good experience to make things. And you're not going to make an Oscar-worthy picture.
In 24 hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
But like they're good, and it's good practice. And it fucking keeps you busy as well. Sometimes as an actor, you're just like, I'll just wait for an email this week, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to actually do things too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like we've spoken about a lot of the performing side of things for yourself as well. Behind the camera, you've done a fair whack as a photographer too.
Yes.
Do you find yourself, if it's not recorded, you can get away with doing embarrassing things a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah, from behind the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
You do whatever you can to get the shot.
Yeah, right. You do see, and it's like, it's one of those, I don't know, like an Instagram page or a subreddit or something of like photographers that are like lying in puddles to get the perfect photograph, or like they're standing in a lake. You ever had to stand in a lake to photo? It's always wedding photos as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had to stand in a lake.
Okay.
I do, and Jess can attest to this, our mutual friend.
Jessica Stanley, friend of the show.
Squat a lot, but I do like extreme squatting. I've done lots of shoots for Jess over the years.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget her partner James took this behind the scenes photo once. Jess was waist deep in the ocean.
Oh, wow.
I was like partly in the ocean, also in the shallows, getting the shot. But my leg span was truly, I'm not very tall, but it was about 7 meters long, just because the depth of my squat was so ridiculous.
So
practically a lunge.
I was going to say, like a forward splits, was it?
Yeah, just
Very
about.
impressive. See,
But why? Did I need to be standing like that? Probably not.
but you did, because you got the photo that you wanted. So you did need to be standing like that.
Yes.
But I think that's it. Sometimes, like, not that I've had any experience behind the camera, but the very very few times that I've had, even just taking like an iPhone photo, you're like, it's whatever position you can get into and hold to get that shot. And then like looking back, you're like, I'm glad no one was photographing me.
Yes.
Unless there are people doing that as well, which I do very much enjoy seeing photos of that.
Maybe that's an idea for some
Photographing the photographer. Yeah.
Yeah, because we do contort ourselves
Yeah.
into some pretty weird shapes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm always impressed sometimes as well, because you'll be in that shape and you'll be like, oh no, it's not quite right. I'm very technically not savvy, but like I hadn't changed the aperture really quickly. So you're holding that shape where you're like scrunched up into a ball, like underneath somebody. I love it.
Yeah.
And as the model as well, you feel like a bit of a dick sometimes. You'll be like, no, you must take photos of me. So seeing like the photographer also being in a weird position, you're like, oh no, we're all in this together. This is fine. Yeah. But like even just from our shoot today, just me like sitting down on a skateboard, rolling down a little hill, I was like, I feel like a child.
Yeah, that was funny because I was wrangling camera bag, umbrella.
Yep.
Which is fine,
Yeah.
in theory, but then actually if you've got to change your settings, it starts to get a bit tricky.
Yeah, and if that wind wants to start taking that umbrella away, or if the rain decides to change direction, you like cannot get it on the camera. The most important thing on every shoot is the camera. I know they say models, I know they say photographer, it's whatever the gear is. That's the stuff that's the hardest to replace. Not that models and photographers are easy to replace, obviously, but
No.
they're much cheaper than a
People,
camera.
I would say people are the most important.
Yes.
But if it's just a bit of rain,
Yeah, exactly.
protect
right.
the gear at all
Yeah,
costs.
for sure. I'm happy to roll around in the rain, I'll be honest with you. I'm a petulant child. Like, I'm happy to do very silly things. Which, again, with our shoot today as well, I don't know when that might be getting released, but I was playing on swings and everything.
Yeah.
And that was purely for my own satisfaction. So
Release
it was nice.
the inner child.
Yeah, exactly, right? And again, as a stunt performer, I always say that. Like, every week we just, like, push each other over, or like flipping over a bin or something like that. It's like, this is the stuff I wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I'm like, I'm write this off on tax, like as training. And then, God, if you get to do it on set as well, it's so much fucking fun. Although saying that, I did hurt my butt last week doing an audition for a I won't say what it was for a TV commercial though. And they're like, can you do a flip through a window? And I was like, no, I don't have windows that open like that. So I did a flip off my gym bench at home. And then because my gym bench is not the most secure thing, halfway through the pushing off, it sort of wobbled and I landed really hard on my butt.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's another TV commercial audition story.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Oh, I still haven't heard back from that audition as well. So
wow.
But it seemed like it was fun. But fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
At the time of release of this podcast, I'm going to 98% sure I haven't got it as well. Like every audition. But enough of me complaining about auditions. Do we have any other groupings of stories? Or are we wanting to move on to the final stories that you're wanting to save to the end?
I sort of told half of one of them already.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
What was that half?
No, that was just how I met my partner.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
which is not salacious at all.
No, not at all.
Now
that happens all the time as well on sets, I want to say, especially longer shoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I totally didn't ever see myself being with a crew either.
Yeah.
I think, like as an actor, you do scene work with other actors and
you spend too much time with other actors.
Yeah. And so, you always end up, at the time anyway, expected, to be more drawn to other actors. Yeah. So it was nice to actually...
It's nice not to be with other actors sometimes as well, though, in all fairness.
Yeah, it's nice and balanced in this household.
Yeah, that is good, huh? My partner's not in the industry at all, and I'm like, I think that's a good thing, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because two actors together sometimes, first of all, how are you going to pay the bills? And then secondly, you're both at such heightened emotions at certain points as well. You're like, this is a bit much. This is too much. And you get weirdly intimate with actors just purely from the job as well. So it's nice to have that disconnect of not, not being, if you had to work with your partner and then live with your partner as well, that would be a bit too much for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also think I would get jealous.
Yeah,
if my partner was getting more auditions than me or booking more, I don't know. I just feel like that there'd be the capacity for sort of resentment to fester.
And even though you're not wanting that, it might just bubble away a little bit underneath.
Yeah.
And it's always that weird thing as well. And it's obviously all make-believe, but watching your partner make out with someone else is always I personally have no problems with it, but everybody comes from a different background there as well. And I know friends that I have had partners watching them do certain activities with obviously fake or simulated, but you're they are not happy about it or they're uncomfortable with it, which is totally fair as well because it's fucking weird.
Yeah, it is.
So having to watch your partner do things with other people, which is work. It is work.
It is work. That's true.
But it looks very real.
Yeah. Particularly if you're good at your job.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. That's the worst part as well. If you are good at your job, it looks too real.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry for taken away from that. Did you say you had another part of that story as well, where you met your partner?
Yeah, I do. And it's not about my partner this time, but it's one that I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about because it's tricky to talk about.
Yeah,
and I'm absolutely not going to be saying any names or anything like that.
And I always say this, it's before the podcast, so nobody ever hears it on mic, but I always want my guests to feel comfortable to share with whatever they want. I never feel like I want to push you into sharing things you're uncomfortable with. And this is always editable as well. So
This is true.
Yeah, but only if you feel comfortable sharing this story.
Yeah, I mean, it's my most salacious story.
Oh, okay. Well, I insist in that case then.
So I don't know if there's a way to make it remotely funny, but we'll see. No,
it's fine. Again, it doesn't have to be funny. I've been saying this recently on the podcast. I like the perfect balance of 50% funny and then 50% life-alteringly sad. So if we can, I think we've hit enough of the funny, so we can bring in some of the sad parts.
Yeah, great.
Or the salacious parts now as well. So whatever keeps all these beautiful perverts listening.
So, I guess this story really indicates to me why intimacy coordination is so important.
Yes.
Because it pertains to a relationship that I had, a friendship, I should say, not a intimate relationship, but just a relationship I had with a cast member on this particular set. And we became really close over the course of a long
you do
batch of filming.
Yeah, you become... intensely close with certain people as well, and especially if it's an on-location shoot where you're not with your family and you can't escape it essentially. You become you forge these crazy close relationships in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Like trauma bonding almost sometimes as well.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And I think that's the case with me and this other person. And anyway, so we were working in not the most challenging conditions, but it was cold. Ugh. The content was really heavy. Ugh. Like it was challenging. It was taxing. And it was long shoot days.
Yeah.
And we had a falling out, which I won't go into on the air.
Oh, no, please. Yeah.
It's a very boring early 20s type of falling out. It's just like the most mundane thing you can imagine when I look back on it now. At the time, it felt like, a bit more extreme, as things do when they're fresh. For sure.
And especially when you're a little bit younger as well, you wear your heart on your sleeve a little bit more.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
You become old like myself, nothing matters anymore.
I got a thick skin now.
Too thick sometimes, yeah.
I did not have a thick skin then. And anyway, and so the idea that somebody was upset with me or was angry at me or disappointed in me just absolutely broke my heart. And so I'm working, like I said before, in this challenging sort of content with a scene partner that just will not engage with me at all.
Wow. On screen or off screen or both?
All of the above.
Oh my God.
And like I was saying before, I didn't have a car at this time. And so I was traveling to and from set with this person.
Oh, how long was the journey?
The journey was probably an hour.
Oh, fuck, that's so long.
Anyway, this falling out took place on set one day at lunchtime or something. And I was like, oh, Jesus, how am I going to get home? Like, I don't want to be in a car with that energy right now. That's not what I need.
No, for sure.
We're both responding to this differently. That's fine.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was like, maybe could you just drop me at the closest train station?
Yep, okay.
No.
Okay.
I got dropped all the way home. But I was punished in this car. And it was just really tense.
Yeah. Well,
and then
unsurprisingly, by the sounds of things.
We got about 5 minutes away from my house, and I just remember all the windows were down, and then I was starting to be yelled at.
Oh no!
And it was, I just was quiet. I felt like I was in the wrong from our sort of conflict that had unfolded, and so I was just wearing. This person clearly had to work through some stuff, and so that they were sort of just letting me have it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, we're nearly home. We're nearly home. Just breathe. I got home and I just collapsed on the floor in this heap in the fetal position. I just couldn't move for like 30 minutes. I was so upset. And what my theory is now, and I could be wrong, is that we had a intimate character relationship, but we were just friends when the camera stopped rolling. And because there was no intimacy coordinator, I feel as though the lines got potentially a little bit blurred because of this conflict that happened. The response to me seemed, you can never tell somebody that they're overreacting, but it seemed really extreme.
Yeah, right.
And then we were no longer able to engage on camera or anything. It was
far out.
Oh, it was horrible.
That's so hectic.
Yeah. And then I went to set the next day. I can't remember how I got there, but I didn't. No, I no longer got a lift with this person.
You weren't sharing a ride anymore. No. Yeah, fair enough.
But then, we're having close-ups and they're just not making eye contact with me, anything like that. It was really disheartening. And I thought, whatever personal conflicts we have, can we not just put them aside for to see the project through?
You need to, right? And it's I don't want to comment on this person. Obviously, they were going through it in a different way that you were, but like you kind of need to be that professional person on camera because you're like, well, you're ruining everyone else's job and the potential for like this entire project as well. Yeah, and it sucks. It does suck, but it's also kind of life. Like you're not always going to have people that you get on with, and we have fights with people sometimes, but
for sure. And it wasn't really. It wasn't. I don't want to.
No.
I don't want to belittle this person's experience,
yeah.
but like it wasn't really any of their business.
Yeah.
Which was how the conflict started.
Oh.
So they were sort of I don't know, for lack of a better term, sticky beaking in my personal life.
Right.
But anyway, so...
My God.
Yeah, but it was horrible.
That's so fucking hectic. Oh, and that just getting berated in a car ride home as well.
Talk about, like, the car story from earlier, not having any control.
Yeah.
And not being able to, you know, hop out of the car and not knowing what you're going to get with the person in the car with you. It was quite scary.
Yeah.
Actually.
Fuck, that sucks. And like, again, this is just a testament to why intimacy coordinators are so...
Yes.
Just necessary, I think. Like, it's not even just like a oh, you should have them. Like, you need to have them, especially for this kind of stuff, because these intimate characters, and I'm not saying that it's everyone, but like the lines do blur a little bit sometimes, because like you're a human and you're like, well, I'm spending all day being in love with this person on camera, and then I'm not saying that this is any excuse as well, obviously it's not, but like some people can get a little bit confused with their emotions with it as well, but that's why an intimacy coordinator is there, to diffuse situations, or being like, no, this is exactly what we're going to do, this is the character, this is safe. But then having it like culminate in that, fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, it was really extreme, and that's a lot to, I feel like, process while you're also then trying to show up and be emotionally available for the role you're doing.
Exactly, which you're not wanting to shut down for.
No.
Which you are getting the other person shutting down for. Like, that's such a hectic thing to deal with.
It was actually, I was really disappointed by that, because I felt like I was still showing up and doing my job. And being there for the close-up when required and making eye contact when required. Even though I didn't necessarily want to be showing up in that way. That was required. And so then to not have that reciprocated really bothered me. More so probably than the initial conflict, if I'm honest.
Yeah, right. It's the kind of lack of respect a little bit as well with that. Yeah, like not treating you like a colleague anymore, just kind of treating you like a I don't know, like a friend in high school you've fallen out with, and you've but like, fuck, that's rough. How much longer filming did you have after the conflict? Fuck, that's a long time as well, huh?
Yeah,
especially for like heavy, what sounds like heavy material to be dealing with in the script as well. That sounds like a fucking miserable week. It was not the best week, but the upshot is that on this set, probably on a different day, is when I met Dave for the first time. Well, I mean, like, the silver lining and all that, right? Yeah. But fuck, that's hectic. Yeah. Did you ever make up with this person, or I don't know?
Yeah, like sort of.
Extend a olive branch?
We had a period of not talking. Then we sort of made up to a point. Now we are colleagues, I would say. Now, so I, not rushing to invite them over for dinner. But
it's probably for the best by the sounds of things as well.
So, sometimes you realize people are colleagues, and some people are friends, and that's absolutely normal.
Oh, absolutely. And again, like, that's with every job as well. Sometimes in other jobs the heightened emotion doesn't come with it, but like, there's definitely people I've worked with before, actually, I'm like, I'll be friendly with you at work, but I'm not going to stay in touch after I leave this job. And that's not a horrible thing to say. It's just what happens. And that happens on set all the time as well. And you do forge these incredibly intense relationships, and sometimes they're just done, and then sometimes you stay great friends with them afterwards. There's no right and wrong way to do it, and that's just what happens. I mean, maybe the way that person dealt with this situation sounds like it was not the correct way to do it, but that's...
Look, I think they were doing the best with what they had at the time.
Exactly. And everyone comes from a different background again as well, but it's when you're putting it on other people. We definitely shared a shared trauma together, but I think that could have really been avoided if we'd handled things differently. Which is, the hindsight sort of conversation. Well, that's what it is now, isn't it? It's hindsight. And knowing, you're like, okay, I was younger. Like, safety procedures are in place now a little bit more on sets for that kind of stuff, but... Ooh, what a fucking ending to the podcast, Sarah.
I know, sorry, it's a bit heavy.
Please do not apologise. Again, this stuff's important to talk about, and I think we have now got our 50% comedy and depressing stories. But I'm always happy with that. I'm always happy. No, not with that. I'm obviously not happy it happened, but like being able to share this and being able to share it with people that are maybe coming up in the industry or people that aren't quite as experienced as well.
Yeah.
Very important to know about.
Yeah.
But we'll bring this podcast to a close, I think. Did you have any other stories prepared, or are we all done?
No, I think that's it.
That was a good ending to the podcast.
That's the doozy.
Yeah.
That's the doozy. I will just add to that, though,
Yep.
that hasn't deterred me from being an actor. I think
That's
all
good.
of the challenging experiences help to create what we were saying before about having a bit of a thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, you can do the work and you can work in a challenging environment,
Yeah.
but the challenge then is being vulnerable enough to do the
Isn't
actual
that
acting.
The irony,
Yeah.
'cause being an actor, like you say, you do need a thick skin, which is like such a weird thing to say to people, but you're like, the amount of rejection, the amount people talk about you behind your back or
Yeah.
to your face, sometimes even just because they have to as well. And then things like that happen on set, you're like, yeah, you kind of need a tough, like a thick skin. And then instantly being like, you need to be the most emotional person ever. So readily
Yeah.
available. So it's learning the safe way of finding both of them, I think,
Yes,
is massive
for
as
sure.
well. And a lot of stuff has come out about mental health recently as well with the performance industry. So I'd say, yeah, obviously, I don't have any of the links at hand, but they're definitely out there. So please do look out for it if you need it as well.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes through stuff like this at points in their life, right?
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I will say is something, because I am very emotionally available, so
Yes.
I can tap into that quite easily.
Readily,
I
yeah.
think readily, yeah. But what I will say is, and this I think helped me with this story I've just told, is having an out, like a how to derobe of the character,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that you can switch it off,
Yeah.
and return to your life.
Yeah.
And that helps to stop the lines blurring between
Absolutely.
the fiction of the story that you're telling and the reality of your actual life and your real relationship with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, exactly. And that can even just come from like not wearing your own clothes as the
Yes,
character.
yeah.
Like you get home and you change into your own clothes and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
different now. What I love doing at the end of long filming periods is getting a completely different haircut and shaving.
Yes.
Or growing a beard back in if I have to have a clean shaven. So it's nice to have that separation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's incredibly important as well. But yes, let's bring this to a close now with all of our gems that we've just told everyone and our incredibly depressing stories as well. But I loved hearing about them. Not loved that they happened. I want that on record. But I loved, thank you again, genuinely, for sharing them. But we did tell people where they can find us at the start, but if we can reiterate as well, where you can find all of our photography stuff, you can find all of your acting as well. What are the links to the socials?
Yeah, so I predominantly post photography stuff on socials. That's at Sarah Clarke Photo. And
That's Sarah with an E.
that is, yeah.
Yes, this will all be in the show notes as well.
Sarah Clarke. And then I guess my acting stuff's just on casting networks and showcast, but I'm challenging myself to share more on social media.
Yeah, nice.
So watch this space.
Keep an eye out for it. Perfect. And you said you had a website for the photography as well?
Yes. Website is sarahclarkephotography.com.
Yeah, sick. And you do a podcast as well, don't you? With friend of the show,
I
Jessica Stanley.
We're pretty sporadic with it, but we have a podcast called What Are You Reading?
Yeah.
We both read a lot and we talk about books.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
Far more intelligent podcast than this one, I have to say. But yeah, I'll link that in the show notes as well, but go and check that out as well for any of you nerds out there. No, I'm joking. I'm not much of a reader personally, but I love hearing about books as well. So it's really nice to have the chance to just listen to the story of a book without, I don't know, my brain's filled with holes, I think. I just got like Gorgonzola brain. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear about stories from books.
Yeah.
Because I won't read them, I'll be honest with you.
Well, listen to the pod for that, or if you want book recs.
Yes.
Because we cover a lot of books.
Yeah,
We
that's
do.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, prolific readers. I can't even say that word. That's how unintelligent this podcast is. But then the same as every week as well, you can find Won't Be Forgetting That Pod across most of the social media platforms. You can find myself, Seb Muirhead, Muirhead, on YouTube and Instagram. If you did enjoy the show, please do rate it 5 stars, write a little review. You can honestly write whatever you want in the review. It doesn't have to be nice, it can be weird, it can be horrible. As long as you rate it 5 stars, all is good by me. We also have a Patreon as well, so if you can check that out, chuck in a couple of dollars. It genuinely helps the show run. And if you can, like, I get it, it's fucking expensive, but it is genuinely appreciated if you can. But once again, thank you so much for coming on, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.